Hello everyone, this is Prasad Patki from SIMMI Foundation. Today we are going to learn about educational thoughts of Rabindranath Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore is the world famous poet, that is Vishwakavi, and is popularly known as Gurudev, the respected teacher. He was awarded the Nobel Prize for his book Gitanjali. Shantiniketan and Vishwabharati are the renowned contributions of Tagore to the field of education. In this session, we are going to study Rabindranath Tagore's philosophy of life and his aims of education. Tagore was the apostle of truth, virtue and beauty, that is Satyam Shivam Sundaram. He had strong confidence in the Supreme Being and regarded him as omnipotent, omnipresent and omniscient. According to him, Brahma manifests himself through nature and men, and therefore all men and women are equal. He believed in close affinity between man and nature and pleaded for realizing such a relationship. Emphasizing the relationship between nature and man, he eulogized the idea of the Tapovan, that is hermitage, in which teachers and pupil lived together with nature. He felt that in order to make education meaningful, the child should be in touch with economic, intellectual, social, aesthetic and spiritual life of people. He advocated social service for everybody, as it not only improves the society but elevates oneself spiritually. Rabindranath Tagore was a humanist, a prophet of love, sympathy, fellow feeling and cooperation. His humanism was based on spiritual foundations. He believed that God lives in man and thus he is to be worshipped not only in temple but also in serving humanity. According to Tagore, the supreme truth of life is not merely to live but also to know our existence and realize the self through love and sympathy with others. Hence, it is essential that the growth of a balanced and well-integrated personality of the child is to be promoted and move should be made towards the achievement of the ultimate goal of life, that is Satchidananda. Satya means truth, Chitta means balanced mind and Ananda is self-realization. He believed that freedom should be the guiding principle of education. By freedom, Tagore meant the liberation of all aspects and powers of the personality, namely the senses, the vital energies, the various mental capacities including intelligence and imagination, also the functions of heart feelings, emotions, sympathy and love. Here it can be noticed that the idea of Tagore is similar to the ideas of Rousseau, Froebel, Dewey, who have emphasized freedom, which lies in the perfect harmony of relationships which we realize in the world. He believed in internationalism based on spiritualization and emphasized universal brotherhood. He considered that education in India would be successful only when there is proper integration of the Eastern and Western culture, which preserved all the values of the past with the new values of today. He also emphasized that self-expression is very important and provisions should be made for its development among students. Self-expression is creative in nature and should be organized through various forms of arts, music, dramatics, handiwork, etc. He believed in activity in education. Hence, he encouraged play and work as the instruments of teaching children and adults respectively. With this background of Tagore's philosophy of life and education, we can now proceed to discuss his aims of education. Tagore was one of the first in India to argue for a humane educational system that was in close touch with the environment and aimed at an overall development of the personality. He envisaged education for harmony and artistic self-expression. In general, Tagore envisioned an education that was deeply rooted in one's immediate surroundings but connected to the cultures of the wider world. He propagated that the learning of a child must be filled with joy and pleasure. He wanted his students to become universal men and women and to overcome feelings of narrow nationalism in order that the world could live and grow in peace and fellowship. According to Tagore, the main aim of education is to achieve fulfillment and completeness. In other words, education should aim at promoting an all-around development of children and achieving Satchitananda. He emphasized that education is not intellectual development alone. It should also develop aesthetic nature and creativity among children. Further, he envisaged that education given to our children should aim at the following: encourage and foster freedom of thought, independent spirit, and free will, promote moral and spiritual development of an individual and liberate him from different kinds of bondages, develop the ability of assimilation and application of new ideas and knowledge, and the ability of thinking and imagination. Make the younger generation aware of their national cultural heritage and grasp its significance for them. Enable them to appreciate the cultures of other countries too and also to learn from them. Make Indian men and women more rational and less subject to meaningless social and individual rituals. Help students to acquire scientific temper. In other words, to stimulate constructive doubt, the love of mental adventure, the courage and longing to conquer the world by enterprise and boldness in thought and in action. Develop the individual personality as well as the social characteristics. Develop fellow feeling among students and enable them to render social service and service to the country. Develop the finer feelings of heart through the cultivation of Indian music and other forms of indigenous arts. Emphasize the earning of livelihood and material benefit. On the whole, it can be concluded that the aims of education according to Rabindranath Tagore are based on the three cardinal principles of freedom, creative self-expression, and active communion with nature and man. That's all from this session. We'll meet you again in next section soon. Thank you.